I still remember the exact moment my world collapsed, standing in my childhood bedroom doorway, watching my mother Delilah stuff my belongings into black garbage bags like I was already dead to her. The inheritance check from Grandma Iris lay crumpled on my dresser, torn in half. $385,000. Gone. "You can't just take my money," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the sound of my father Thornton's heavy footsteps downstairs. He was loading their car, preparing to disappear from my life forever. My hands trembled as I gripped the doorframe, knuckles white against the chipped paint I'd picked at as a nervous child. Delilah didn't even look up. "Your grandmother left that money to help the family, Scarlett. We had debts you don't understand." Her voice carried that familiar edge of manipulation wrapped in false concern. "You're 28 years old. You should be grateful we raised you this long." The cruelest part wasn't the money. It was how they'd planned this. For months, they'd been draining the account slowly, transferring chunks to pay off their gambling debts, their credit cards, their failed business ventures. I'd trusted them completely when they offered to help me manage the inheritance after Grandma's funeral. How naive I'd been, thinking family meant protection instead of predation. My stomach churned as I watched her fold my college diploma into a bag with my old sweaters, like my achievements were just clutter to be discarded. 28 years of unconditional love, and they were erasing me from their lives as efficiently as they drained my bank account. Where will I go? The question escaped before I could stop it, sounding pathetic even to my own ears. "Figure it out," Thornton called from downstairs. "You're smart, right? College graduate and all that." The silence after their car disappeared down Maple Street felt heavier than the garbage bags I dragged to the curb. My phone buzzed. A text from my college roommate Waverly. "Coffee tomorrow? Haven't seen you in forever." I stared at the message, wondering how to explain that I was now homeless with $17 in my wallet and no family to speak of. That's when Mrs. Chen appeared on her front porch next door, arms crossed, watching me with those sharp eyes that never missed neighborhood drama. She'd lived there for 30 years, had watched me grow up through every scraped knee and teenage heartbreak. "Scarlett, honey, what's all this commotion?" I couldn't speak without crying, so I just gestured helplessly at the bags scattered across my parents' lawn. Mrs. Chen's expression shifted from curiosity to something fiercer, protective anger I'd never seen before. She marched over, her small frame radiating determination. "Those worthless parents of yours finally showed their true colors, didn't they?" She didn't wait for an answer. "I saw them loading suitcases at 5 this morning, acting all secretive. Then I heard you crying through the walls last night." Her weathered hands touched my shoulder gently. "Come on. You're staying with me tonight, and we're figuring this out properly." The kindness broke something loose in my chest. I sobbed right there on the sidewalk while Mrs. Chen rubbed my back, making those soothing sounds mothers make. Sounds I'd never really heard from Delilah. "They took everything," I managed between gasps. "My inheritance, my home, everything Grandma left me." "Those greedy fools," Mrs. Chen muttered, her accent thickening with rage. "Your grandmother Iris was such a good woman. She'd be rolling in her grave knowing what they did to her money." She helped me gather the bags. "But listen to me, Scarlett. This isn't the end of your story. This is where you find out what you're really made of." Mrs. Chen's guest room smelled like jasmine tea and old books. Nothing like the sterile coldness of my parents' house. I sat on her floral bedspread at 2 in the morning, staring at my phone screen, scrolling through bank statements that told the story of my own destruction. Transfer after transfer, each one approved with my supposed consent, draining Grandma Iris's gift like blood from a wound. "You can't sleep either?" Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway with 2 steaming mugs. Her gray hair hung loose around her shoulders, making her look softer, but no less fierce. "I've been thinking about your situation all night." She handed me the tea and settled beside me with a heaviness that suggested serious conversation. "Scarlett, I need to tell you something about your parents that might hurt, but you deserve the truth." My stomach clenched. "Your grandmother came to see me 2 weeks before she died. She was worried about leaving you that money because she'd heard Delilah and Thornton arguing about debts." The mug trembled in my hands. "What kind of debts?" "Gambling, mostly. Your father owes some dangerous people in Atlantic City. Your mother's been taking cash advances on credit cards to pay minimum payments on other cards." Mrs. Chen's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Iris wanted to change her will, leave the money in a trust you couldn't access until 35, but she ran out of time." I felt something crack inside my chest. Not heartbreak this time, but crystallizing anger. They planned this. They waited for her to die, knowing they'd steal from me. Yes, they did. Mrs. Chen's hand found mine. But here's what they didn't plan on. You surviving this. You rebuilding. You becoming stronger than they ever imagined possible. Her eyes blazed with conviction. "I have some savings, enough to help you get started. But more importantly, I have contacts in the legal community who owe me favors." The possibility of justice felt foreign after hours of feeling completely powerless. "You think I could actually get the money back?" "I think," Mrs. Chen said carefully, "that we're going to make them very sorry they underestimated you." Mrs. Chen's lawyer friend Marcus Holloway had the kind of presence that made you believe impossible things were possible. He sat across from us in his downtown office 6 days later, studying the evidence I'd compiled: bank statements, forged signatures, transfer records that painted a clear picture of systematic theft. "This is actually more straightforward than most inheritance fraud cases," Marcus said, his deep voice carrying quiet authority. "Your parents were sloppy. They left a paper trail that screams criminal intent." He leaned forward, fingers steepled. "The question is, do you want to pursue criminal charges or focus on asset recovery?" My throat felt raw from crying, but my voice came out steady. "I want everything back, plus interest, and I want them to face consequences. Criminal charges will take longer but send a stronger message. Civil recovery could be faster." Marcus studied my face carefully. "Scarlett, I need you to understand something. Pursuing your parents legally will change you. Once you cross that line, there's no going back to being their victim." Mrs. Chen squeezed my hand. "She's not their victim anymore. She's a survivor taking control." That moment felt like stepping off a cliff into free fall. "File everything, criminal and civil. I'm done protecting people who never protected me." Marcus smiled grimly. "Good. I'll need you to document every conversation, every memory of how they convinced you to let them manage the inheritance. This will get ugly before it gets better." Walking out of that office, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks, hope mixed with terrifying determination. Mrs. Chen linked her arm through mine as we headed to her car. "You know what this means, don't you? You're not just fighting for money. You're fighting for your right to exist without their permission." The legal papers were served 3 weeks later. By then, I'd moved into a tiny studio apartment downtown, gotten a job at a non-profit helping financial abuse victims, and started sleeping through the night for the first time since the theft. My phone rang constantly. Blocked numbers, unknown area codes, frantic voicemails from Delilah claiming they could work this out as a family. I never answered. Every ignored call felt like reclaiming another piece of my soul. The courtroom felt like a cathedral of justice when the judge read the verdict 18 months later. "The defendants are hereby ordered to pay restitution of $412,000, including interest and legal fees, within 90 days or face asset forfeiture and additional criminal penalties." Delilah's sob echoed through the chamber, but I felt nothing except hollow satisfaction. Thornton wouldn't even look at me, his shoulders hunched in defeat. They'd aged years in those 18 months, stress and shame carving deep lines around their eyes, their clothes hanging loose like they'd forgotten how to care for themselves. Marcus squeezed my shoulder as we left the courthouse. "They'll pay, Scarlett. Their house, their cars, Thornton's pension. We'll get every penny back and then some." But the real victory wasn't the money. It was walking past my parents without flinching, my spine straight and my head high. It was the way other people looked at me now, with respect instead of pity. Mrs. Chen waited by the courthouse steps, beaming with pride like the mother I'd never really had. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, pulling me into a fierce hug. "You fought for yourself when no one else would." That evening, I sat in my apartment, a real one-bedroom place now, not the studio, and called my supervisor at the nonprofit. "Janet, I want to talk about expanding our services. I've been thinking about families who steal from each other, inheritance fraud specifically." "That's pretty niche, Scarlett. Do we have the funding?" I smiled, thinking about the settlement money that would arrive soon. "We will. I want to create something bigger than just support groups. Legal aid, financial counseling, emergency housing for people whose families abandon them." My voice grew stronger with each word. "I want to build something that would have saved me years of pain. You're talking about a major expansion, almost like starting your own organization." The idea hit me like lightning. My own organization. A place where people like me could find not just help, but complete transformation from victim to survivor to advocate, where the betrayed could become the protectors. "Maybe I am talking about that," I said quietly. Over the next 6 months, I poured every ounce of recovered money into building something unprecedented, a comprehensive resource center for family financial abuse survivors. The work consumed me, but in the best possible way. 3 years later, I stood in the main lobby of the Phoenix Foundation, my foundation, watching our newest client, a 70-year-old woman named Dorothy, sign papers for emergency housing after her son drained her retirement account. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd named my organization after a mythical bird that rises from ashes, but sometimes the obvious metaphors are the truest ones. "Miss Whitmore, we have a reporter here from Channel 7 News," my assistant Kendall announced, slightly breathless. "They want to interview you about the state grant we just received." The state grant. $2.3 million over 5 years to expand our services statewide. I still couldn't believe it was real, that my little organization, born from my own devastation, now employed 23 people and had helped over 800 families recover from financial abuse. The reporter, a polished woman in her 40s named Vivian Torres, set up her camera in my office. Behind her, I could see the wall of thank you letters from clients, the certificates of recognition from the Attorney General's office, the framed photo of me shaking hands with the governor at last month's ceremony. "Tell us how the Phoenix Foundation started," Vivian said, her voice warm but professional. I'd told this story dozens of times, but it never got easier. "I founded this organization after my own parents stole my inheritance and abandoned me. I realized that family financial abuse is one of the most devastating forms of betrayal because it combines theft with the destruction of trust and love. And now you're helping hundreds of families recover from similar situations? Not just recover, rebuild completely. We provide legal aid, financial counseling, temporary housing, and something that's maybe most important, a community of people who understand that family doesn't always mean safety." After the interview, I walked through our offices, past counselors meeting with clients, past the legal aid clinic where Marcus now volunteered twice a week, past the children's play area where kids waited while their parents learned to rebuild their lives. My phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen. "Saw the news interview. So proud of you, sweetheart. Your grandmother would be amazed at what you've built." That evening, I was reviewing budget projections when Kendall knocked on my door. "Scarlett, There's something weird happening. Our main phone line has been ringing constantly with calls from the same two numbers. They won't leave names, but they keep asking for you specifically. The blocked numbers started calling the day after my television interview aired. By Friday, Kendall had logged over 50 calls from the same two phone numbers, one with a New Jersey area code, one from Florida. They never left voicemails, just hung up when they reached our automated system asking for names and contact information. "It's getting disruptive," Kendall said, showing me the call log. "They're tying up our main line. Clients are having trouble getting through." I stared at the numbers, my stomach churning with a familiar dread I hadn't felt in years. New Jersey, Florida. Places my parents might have fled after losing their house, their cars, everything they'd built with stolen money. "Block both numbers," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "If it's important, they'll find another way to reach me." They did. The next Monday, my personal cell phone rang at 6 in the morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me swipe to accept. "Scarlett?" The voice was older, more fragile than I remembered, but unmistakably my mother's. "Scarlett, please don't hang up. It's Mom!" My hand trembled so violently, I nearly dropped the phone. 4 years of silence, and she still expected me to respond to Mom like nothing had happened. "I saw you on the news," Delilah continued, her words rushing together desperately. "We've been trying to reach you for days. Sweetheart, we need to talk. Your father's sick, and we're in terrible trouble. We need—" I hung up and immediately blocked the number. But my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't hold my coffee cup. The old fear tried to creep back in, that instinctive urge to help, to fix, to sacrifice myself for people who had never done the same for me. An hour later, my office phone rang. Kendall's voice was tight with frustration. "Scarlett, there's a woman at the front desk claiming to be your mother. Security won't let her up, but she says she'll wait all day if necessary." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of 4 years of healing suddenly challenged by 5 minutes of contact. Through my office window, I could see the lobby, and there she was. Delilah, thin and gray-haired, clutching a worn purse like a lifeline. She looked up at the building's upper floors with the desperate expression of someone who had lost everything and was hoping for a miracle. The woman who had once thrown my belongings in garbage bags was now begging for my attention. The daughter she'd abandoned was now the successful executive she needed to save her. I sat in my office for 2 hours, watching Delilah through the window as she waited in our lobby like a supplicant at a temple. She'd aged terribly, her once perfectly styled hair now stringy and gray, her clothes wrinkled and ill-fitting. Every few minutes, she'd approach the reception desk, gesturing frantically at Kendall, who kept shaking her head and pointing to the security guard. Mrs. Chen called around noon. "I heard through the neighborhood grapevine that your parents are back in town, staying at the Motel 6 on Highway 9. Apparently they've been asking neighbors about you, showing people newspaper clippings of your success like they're proud parents." The audacity nearly choked me. They're proud. They destroyed me, and now they want to claim credit for my recovery? People who abandon children don't get to celebrate when those children succeed without them, Mrs. Chen said firmly. But Scarlett, you need to decide how to handle this. Running forever isn't healing. It's just survival. At 3 o'clock, I made my decision. I walked downstairs to the lobby, my heels clicking against marble floors that had been paid for with money I'd earned through my own determination, not inherited wealth they'd stolen. Delilah looked up as I approached, her face crumpling with relief and desperate hope. "Scarlett, thank God. You look so successful, so beautiful. I always knew you'd do something special with your life." "You knew?" The words came out sharper than intended. "You threw my belongings in garbage bags and told me to figure it out myself." "We were desperate, sweetheart. We made terrible mistakes, but we never stopped loving you." Her voice quavered with practiced vulnerability. "Your father has cancer now. Stage 3. We've lost everything. Our house, our savings, everything. The medical bills are crushing us." I studied her face, looking for genuine remorse but finding only calculated manipulation. The same techniques she'd used my entire childhood, packaging selfishness as family obligation. "You want money," I said flatly. "We need help, just temporary assistance until Thornton gets better. You're doing so well now, and we're family." "Family?" The word exploded out of me with 4 years of suppressed rage. "Family doesn't steal inheritance money. Family doesn't abandon their children. You're strangers who happen to share my DNA." Delilah's mask slipped, revealing the familiar flash of anger when manipulation failed. "After everything we sacrificed to raise you, this is how you repay us. We gave you life. You gave me trauma." The lobby had gone silent except for the sound of Delilah's ragged breathing. Even the security guard was staring, and I realized our confrontation had drawn an audience. My employees, clients, people who knew my story and were watching me face my demons in real time. "You want to know what you actually gave me?" I said, my voice carrying across the marble space. "You gave me trust issues that took years of therapy to overcome. You gave me the belief that love was conditional on what I could provide. You taught me that family meant exploitation disguised as affection." Delilah's face crumpled, but I wasn't finished. 4 years of silence had built up too much pressure. "But you also gave me something else without meaning to. You gave me the exact experience I needed to understand what real family abuse looks like. Every client who walks through those doors gets help because I lived through what you did to me." "Scarlett, please." "I've helped 800 families recover from financial abuse. 800 people who won't spend years wondering why their own parents destroyed them. That's your legacy, not the daughter you raised, but the advocate you accidentally created by abandoning her." Thornton appeared in the lobby doorway then, leaning heavily on a walker, his face gaunt and yellow. The sight of him, once so imposing, now clearly dying, should have triggered sympathy. Instead, I felt only hollow recognition of mortality that comes to everyone, regardless of the choices they've made. "Scarlett," he wheezed, his voice barely audible. "I'm sorry. We were wrong, but I'm dying, and we have nowhere else to turn." The manipulation was almost perfect. The dying father, the desperate mother, the successful daughter who should forgive because that's what good people do. But I'd learned something crucial in building the Phoenix Foundation. Enabling people who've hurt you isn't kindness. It's self-destruction. "I'm sorry you're sick," I said quietly. "I'm sorry you're broke. I'm sorry your choices led you here. But I'm not sorry that I survived what you did to me, and I'm not going to let you destroy me twice." I turned to my security guard. "Please escort them out. If they return, call the police for trespassing." As they were led away, Delilah screamed over her shoulder, "You'll regret this when we're dead! You'll regret not helping your own parents!" But watching them disappear through the glass doors, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Complete peace with my choice. 6 months have passed since that confrontation, and I haven't heard from them since. Mrs. Chen told me last week that she'd heard through old neighbors that Thornton died in a county hospital in Florida, alone except for Delilah. She asked if I wanted to attend the funeral. I declined. The Phoenix Foundation now operates in 12 states with a budget approaching $400,000 annually. We've expanded our services to include a legal clinic specifically for inheritance fraud cases, and I've been invited to speak at conferences about family financial abuse. Every time I tell my story publicly, I get emails from people saying I helped them find the courage to pursue justice against their own family members. Last month, a woman named Patricia drove 6 hours to meet with me. Her brother had stolen her disability settlement while she was recovering from a car accident. I saw your interview, she said, tears streaming down her face. You said that family doesn't always mean safety, and something clicked. I realized I wasn't protecting him by staying silent. I was protecting the part of me that still hoped he might change. Those conversations remind me why I made the right choice. Every person who finds strength in my story validates the decision to choose my own healing over their manipulation. The calls stopped at exactly 253 attempts. I know because Kendall kept count, amazed by their persistence. Sometimes I wonder if they expected me to eventually crack, to let guilt override self-preservation like I had for so many years before their betrayal. But here's what they never understood. They didn't just steal my inheritance. They accidentally gave me the greatest gift imaginable. They showed me that I was strong enough to survive the worst people could do to me. They proved that I could build something meaningful from complete destruction. They taught me that love isn't about blood relations or obligation, but about people who choose to protect and support each other. Mrs. Chen is 82 now, and I take her to dinner every Sunday. She's more of a mother to me than Delilah ever was. My chosen family includes Marcus, who still provides legal advice, Kendall, who's become like a sister, and the hundreds of clients who've become part of our community of survivors. I sleep peacefully now, knowing that I chose healing over enabling, growth over guilt, and my own well-being over people who never chose mine. Now tell me, what would you do if you were in my place? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and comment where you're watching from.